Hey y'all, I'm Nick with PR Equipment in Kearns, Texas, and today we're going to shoot another comparison video between Spartan and a Grasshopper. So last night or yesterday I had a guy trade in this Grasshopper. It's a 329B in on this Spartan, or a very similar, not this exact one, but on a Spartan SRT-XD. It's actually a pretty close comparison. I kind of did just a little bit of research to kind of get an idea of what this thing costs. Obviously, I'm not a Grasshopper dealer, so I don't know what the real world cost is. I know that the Grasshopper website states that this mower has like an $11,700 MSRP as a starting price. And this one has a couple upgrades. It's got an upgraded seat, and then it's got the upgraded forks. So I imagine this a little extra, but I don't think he paid MSRP. He said it was about a $10,000 mower, and then he put the upgrades on it. And from what I could tell, that's kind of what they go for, like on Tractor House or whatever else. And then we've got a Spartan SRT-XD, which is what he traded in on. So there's a lot of things that are actually similar between these two mowers. One is the price point. So this has an MSRP. Now this has a 61-inch deck, and he traded in on one with a 54-inch deck, which would have been even more similar. But this is what we have to compare it to right now. So the MSRP, the way this one sits right here is 11.2. But the real world price is, if we're talking, promo pricing, if we're doing the financing, it's like $9,900 bucks. A little cheaper if you're doing cash. But so this is a 28 horsepower Vanguard big block. It's actually really close to the same engine that this is. This is a 29, same CCs, same displacement, horizontal versus vertical shaft engines, but it's a very similar engine. We're a big fan of the Vanguard engine, so there's a lot of commonality there. So price is pretty close, horsepower is pretty close, but I want you guys to take a look at both of these machines and just see what you get. Just right off the bat, I think you can tell, like, this is just more mower, right? It's more steel, it's a heavier frame. There's a lot of things to like about it. Versus the Grasshopper, which Grasshoppers are known to be very good mowers, very good clean cutting mowers, and very reliable. They're not built bad, they're a good mower. I just wanted to kind of compare like what it is that you get here versus here. And so now this is a couple years old. It's only got like 173 hours on it. It was garage kept. It's a very nice mower. But I just want to talk about similarities in the fact that, the deck, it's a very nice deck on the Grasshopper, very nice deck on the Spartan. They're both, the Spartan's got a 7-gauge deck. This has got like a laminated deck from what I could read online, so it's actually got 2 layers of steel. But beyond that, this has the upgraded seat on it. This has the full suspension seat. So this is an upgrade on the Spartan, and when I first picked this mower up, one of the first things I noticed is I wasn't really a fan of the comfort of this seat. The other one that they offer doesn't have any suspension at all, so I'm sure this is an upgrade, but it just felt a little too rigid for my liking. There is some adjustments you can do, which is pretty cool. So it's actually kind of got like a little air pump system, so that's kind of a cool little feature. Whereas the Spartan, it's got this dial on front to adjust it. But comparing the ride quality between these two seats, hands down, this seat is much, much, much more comfortable. Beyond that, there's a few other things I noticed. So they have the front suspension forks. We have that as an option. It's not on this particular model, but it is an option that we have a little bit different style. It's got a little bit more travel, but we have a front suspension option. But so we also, the SRTs have the rear suspension. So it's a coil spring suspension. If you're interested to know more about it, we have another video that actually shows you how it all works. Where this is rigid, right? So no rear suspension on the Grasshopper. But also in terms of comfort, and that's the thing, is it's just so much more comfortable to drive the Spartan. But we've got 360 suspension. So not only do we have a nice seat, not only do we have seat suspension, we have the 360 suspension, which gives you some side roll. It's also got some tech packs underneath it. So it's got an adjustable style of tech pack system, which gives you more suspension. And then in addition to that, it's got rear suspension. So it's an extremely comfortable ride. So that talks about a little bit in terms of comfort. Hands down, Spartan wins that battle. But this isn't bad. Moving on to the next thing that I guess I'd talk about is just kind of ease of operation. And I found the Grasshopper to be maybe just a little stiffer on the controls. Now granted, that could be because it's a little older, but it just felt a little heavier on the hand versus the Spartan, where it's just extremely smooth. And I've seen some of these Spartans with more hours than the Grasshopper has, and they really continue to be very smooth to operate. So I feel like that the Spartan kind of takes the battle as far as the ease of operation and the comfort. And it's also just it feels like a bigger platform, right? So when you look at the two, you just feel like you have more room on the Spartan than the Grasshopper. One thing, I'm going to step on the Grasshopper here. So this is the suspension seat. It's not bad. It's not my favorite. But I noticed that the next thing I'll talk about is in raising and lowering the deck. And if you look at the Grasshopper, it just seems more complicated, right? There's just more parts to it. And so they use a pedal style just like the Spartan. They do use this pin style though for retaining it. So if you want to put it in, whatever position, they use a pin style, and they do have a transport lock, which is kind of cool. The Spartan does as well, but it's just a different setup. I'm not a huge fan of how much noise it makes, but that may be just as it's aged. I'm not sure. But what I can tell you is it's much harder to raise this deck. And I know it's got some springs here. I'm sure that's meant to help with that, but it's significantly more pressure you have to exert with your foot to get this deck to raise. One thing I noticed, so the thing is, you're just a little stiffer on the arm controls. So that's one thing to think about too. So just while we're sitting here and talking about maybe the controls and things, we've got this control panel here. It's not bad. It's kind of centrally located and all. You've kind of got your light switch, and you've got some different information here. So this isn't bad. You got your pull-out switch for your deck. It's, like I say, it's not bad. And your throttle, and it's kind of unique here. They've got the choke cable integrated with the throttle cable. And I thought that was kind of unique as well. I don't know that that's good or bad, but I just thought that was kind of unique because if you're needing to choke it and adjust your throttle at the same time, you can do that. So that's pretty cool. The park brake is this handle here. Right, so that's the park brake on there, and it does have a cup holder. I'm not a huge fan of how this cup holder feels. It is adjustable though, so I guess it might be nice in some applications, but I'm not a huge fan of that. One other final observation is just looking at the deck. It's just a little bit more compact, and it just doesn't feel like it's built quite as heavy. They're using tube steel. It looks like maybe it's 2 inches in diameter. It doesn't really, it runs the full length, but it doesn't really wrap around, so it's different, right? It's not bad, just different. So I'm gonna hop over on the Spartan. So with the Spartan, as we talked about before with the seat suspension, it's adjustable. It's set actually pretty close to my weight. We've also got the 360, so you can see the seat's kind of giving me some side roll, and then the tech packs give me a little tilt. You can tell they're not set right because it'll bottom out, so we need to adjust those a little bit. But the park brake here is the 2 pedals, so it's on, off, on, off. I like that. It's very simple, so if you're using the controls and you want to drive up on the trailer and stop yourself, all you gotta do is kick the park brake. So that's something. Other thing to talk about here is how easy it is to adjust this deck. So we've got the knob, and obviously when you're pressing it, you can adjust it anywhere you want, but even on the lowest setting, we'll just put it all the way down. You can hear that, maybe you can hear it, I don't know, but it's shock assisted, and it's extremely easy to raise and lower this deck, despite the fact that it's a very heavy deck. And then we can talk a little bit about controls. So centrally located control panel. Spartan uses this integrated control panel. There's not much to it. It's a pretty simple control panel, but it does provide us with a lot of information and features. So there's a tachometer and a voltmeter, something you don't get with a Grasshopper. It'll tell you when it's time to change the oil. So something you don't get with the Grasshopper. And probably one of my favorite things about it is, so I'm going to unlock it, and obviously you can change these codes and reset the oil minder and everything. But when you unlock it, it'll tell you if any of your safety switches are out of place. And to me, that's a big thing, because customers call me, or at least have in the past, say, hey, my mower won't start. And you can generally tie it back to a safety switch. Well, with the Spartan, all the safety switches are going to basically tell you, if anything is out of place. So if the park brake is out, it's not going to start until all the red lights are gone. So I'm a pretty big fan of that. We also have that pull-out PTO switch. Ours is a soft start engaging the PTO, so it doesn't just hammer the deck on, which is nice. And we do kind of integrate the throttle cable in the clutch, or the choke. So I'm a big fan of that. It is a much larger operator station, or at least it feels like it. We've got a cup holder here, and you got a couple cubbies. You got a cubby for your phone and a little cigarette lighter. I mean, if you're out on your mower a lot, it actually kind of makes sense, But on the other side, we got this pretty darn nice cup holder and a little cubby here. So you've got some storage area, but the frame seems a little heavier. It just seems a little cleaner too. So with our levers and everything is just made really clean and nice and crisp. So I'm a big fan of that. So I hope you can kind of see some of the differences here. We're going to flip them around, show you a couple other observations, and then we'll be done. Thanks. So a couple final observations here, and one is the hitch. Sometimes it's overlooked, but the Grasshopper looks like a hitch has been added. It's got 2 bolts here. This isn't square tubing. This is kind of formed, but I'm sure it's plenty heavy if you're just pulling a little cart or whatnot. However, on the Spartan, we're actually integrating a 2-inch receiver hitch, just like you'd see on your pickup. So if you need to pull a little trailer or a little cart or whatnot, you just shove your hitch in there and you're good to go. One thing, and so we talked about the differences between the engines. There's a lot of similarities, a couple of differences, but both Vanguard big blocks, very similar horsepowers. One thing I was going to point out is on the XD, because it is kind of the premium mower, and of course this is available in other horsepower options, but this is my closest comparison. I wanted to point out some of the extras you get. So arm pads come standard, the suspension seat comes standard, the chrome tip, maybe you don't need that, but it comes standard, and the aluminum wheels come standard as well. And one last thing is simplicity. This mower is designed to be extremely simple and easy to work on. This has got a little bit more going on and in a little bit more of a compact space. So if you can look at the engine here and you can see we've got some room to move around. You can pop it up and basically get to anything you might need underneath as well. It does have a common sump for both transmissions. And then on the Grasshopper, it's just a little tighter. Not that that's bad, it just is what it is. And if you pop the seat up, all you really have there is fuel tank, right? So you can't get too much underneath there. I don't know that there's much you need to get to, but if you wanted to, it's just not really readily available. So guys, I just wanted you to take a look here. We had the opportunity, since we traded for this really nice low-hour Grasshopper, to kind of compare them and show you what this customer was looking at when he made the decision to trade. Thanks, guys.